Hello friends, I hope you all are fine. In this video, we are going to cover the concept of imitation by Plato, because Plato was the first person who gave any theory about imitation or about art. So his work is very important. And you know that point that Plato was not in favor of imitation, or he was not in the favor of artist or art. Rather, he was not at all giving it a value. So let's see what was his main points. The first thing is the concept of Plato was that he said that the imitation and the art, you know that is twice removed from reality, because Plato was the first person who highly believed in ideas. He said that there is a world which is a copy of that idea, because God created first the idea and then the world. Because Plato said that God created the idea, and on the basis of that idea he created the world, and this world is a copy of that idea. And when an artist, or when a poet, or when a painter tries to depict something or depend on something, that is a copy of a copy. That's how the real the art is twice removed from reality. I have mentioned this point in the last, but that's the premises of his theory. So going back to the first point, he says he uses mimesis in context for education of youth. For Plato, mimesis the process of mimesis the process of imitation was linked to the education of youth, because he said that there should be a certain model, a certain example, which should be copied by the youth in order to educate themselves. And that model, in the next point, it is said that the model should be brave, sober, pious, and nobleman. The model should be good, and that the youth should imitate them. And that's the process of mimesis, and that's where this process should actually be used. So the process of mimesis was used by him in that scenario. Third point, where he uses this scenario for art and literature, and he says mimetic poetry represents injustice among God, and heroes cannot be weak. Because we see that in tragedy there is a character which is a tragic hero, and in that character we see that he is suffering in the end because of his some tragic flaw. There is always a tragic flaw in the hero, due to which he suffers in the tragedy. And that is weakness. If we see Hamlet, then we see that he is very procrastinate. If we see Macbeth, we see that he is very he is easily influenced, and he is over ambitious, and that are their tragic flaws. So for Plato, that heroes cannot have weakness in them, they cannot have tragic flaws in them, and God cannot be unjust to people. So he said that the concept of the tragedy and the concept of imitation is not good. Fifth point is poetry leads to violent and immoral action, because in art and in poetry we see that not every time there's depiction of God values and good moral values. In literature we see that there are corrupt and evil actions as well, and there are bad things which are not good for people to see, and when they see it they are so easily influenced. So Plato said that it leads to violent and immoral action. And in the creation of poetry, the reason is not used, because when an artist and when a poet writes poetry, or he makes some art, then the use of emotions and imagination is very much used, due to which reason is left behind. And when reason is left behind, that is not something which is highly reliable. The point 7 is sex in anger. All desires, pleasure, and pain are fostered, because it's in tragedy. If you see, then the audience is suffering in the end, because we see that there is element of pity and fear in the audience. So the Plato was of the view that these emotions should not be fostered in the audience, and it's not good for people to be in pain because of some characters. Eighth point is a philosophy provides wisdom and truth, while poetry has potential to demoralize. Because in philosophy there is argument, there is conclusion, there is a certain creation of some knowledge. While if you see history, there is depiction of some concrete facts which happened past in history. But if you compare it to art and literature, there is not such that thing. Because in literature there is use of imagination, and there are possibilities. So Plato was not in favor of that. If we are talking about things which are not real, and which have not happened in history, and which are not creating knowledge, so that's not favorable by Plato, that we are depicting those things which are not real at all. Ninth point is he objects to reenactment of ritual. I would combine it with the 10th point, which says mimesis refers to misrepresentation. As artist works with inspiration and imagination, these do not give true image of reality. Because in 10th point it says that there is use of imagination and inspiration by the artist to create some art. So the use of imagination can not and can never lead to the exact portrayal of the certain thing which you want to portray. Because if you see, there are so many things which are the pieces of art. There are books and there are the media of film. Can you ever say that this is the exact portrayal of a certain event or a certain story, and without any difference? I cannot claim it for any particular incident or event or any story, because there are always things which are added by imagination into the art. So he said that it is misrepresentation, because when imagination is used, there would be certain shift in the story, there would be certain change, and there would be certain modification. 11 is there is no relationship between what is imitated and what is real, because the real thing has a function. If there is a sofa, it has a function that it lets people sit. But if there is a copy of a sofa, then won't let people to sit, but it would just be a copy. So there is so much dissimilarity between so real sofa and the copy. And the Plato was against that idea, that why is the use of making sofa when it cannot function the same if as that of the real thing. So there are so many dissimilarities. um, the 12th point actually validates the fact that if there is a craftsman, he has the ability to create certain thing on the basis of certain idea, or he can create some certain thing by seeing a copy. So he is making the same thing as the copy which has the function. But if there is if there is an artist, if there is a poet, then he is not creating thing just by idea, he's seeing reality. Therefore he has a lesser status. And even his work cannot provide true insight. His thing, his the piece of art he is creating is not valuable. 13 point is my misses limited, because whenever you are depicting something, whenever you are portraying something, then that thing is just limited. It cannot capture in it the all essence of that certain thing. 14 point is again the same, which was the basis of all that idea. So I would conclude with the saying that Plato was not liking the concept of imitation, and he did not give any credit to the artist or to the poet. And he said that this imitation process is creating thing which is twice removed from reality. And the process of creation, the imagination is used, which further distances that piece of art from the real thing. And the real thing has not the similar function as that of the thing which is being copied. And then it leads to immoral actions, because in the art and literature, there are portrayal of violence and immoral action which influences people in negative way. And the emotion of pity and fear and sex and desire, all these things are not good for people. Plato further added that if there is philosophy and if there is a history, then they are talking about knowledge and they are talking about facts, while art and literature are so different. They are using imagination, and with that they are not creating any knowledge. They are just talking about possibilities. And what is the use of possibilities that are so distant from the reality? So that are these things, the basic things which were discussed by Plato in his theory of imitation. And he was the person who disliked art and literature, and he did not give any credit to the artist. And he was further he was not happy with the idea of tragic hero, that why are you portraying a tragic hero with some weakness in him? Tragic hero should not have weakness, because hero cannot be weak. So with these things, I'm going to end my video. Thank you so much for viewing it and for liking it. Hope to meet you soon in the next video with the new topic, inshallah. Till then, Allah Hafiz.